Welcome to another off-day edition of Locked On Blue Jays. Today, have we seen the best of Kevin Gausman? What's to come in 2025?
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Now, through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. As always, I'm Braden Iwasco. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Braden5Iwasco. Carter First, too, as well on Instagram and TikTok. At Locked On Blue Jays. If you haven't subscribed already on the YouTube page, we really appreciate it if you did that. Helps us out, keeps us the top of your guys' page. If you're listening anywhere else, head over to the YouTube, drop a subscription anyway, so that you're notified when we go live. We plan to do sort of at some point when the season ends, we're going to do like a big live stream, talk to you guys about some of your ideas moving into the off season. We're going to do all that. So make sure you hit that. There's a little button that you can click to get notified as well. So anytime we go live, anytime a new video post, anytime there's shorts, you guys are staying up to date on all your Blue Jays news and information. Today's a little bit of an interesting day. We want to talk about Kevin Gausman, how he's been this season. What's the fix? Have we seen the best of what we've seen moving into 2025? That's where we'll take the conversation in the second segment. What can we see from Kevin Gausman moving forward next season? And of course, finally, in the third segment, we got a series preview as well. An old Blue Jay rejoining the squad. We'll tell you all about that in the second segment. But third segment, always series preview heading into the last few series before the end of the Toronto Blue Jays season. Carter, my man, how's it going? Little Tuesday edition here. You ready to rock on the off day edition?
It's it's kind of weird having an off day. A lot of off days, obviously, the last little bit, but it's starting to make me just feel like we're in the off season. That's how it's felt, honestly, for the last month with Toronto Blue Jays baseball, pretty much ever since the trade deadline. Again, there's baseball on, we are watching it and things like that, but it's tough to get excited about Toronto Blue Jays baseball when you aren't competing for a playoff spot. And that's why that St. Louis Cardinals series was actually fun baseball. It felt like there actually was something to play for. We were winning baseball games, and it is so much more fun winning than it is losing. But we have some more stuff to talk about. There's always stuff to talk about with the Toronto Blue Jays. That's the good thing about this 162 games in a season. There is sometimes that you don't have a game on every single day, but there is still a lot going on, especially with a team that is guarded by an entire country. You got the entire country at their back. There's always going to be some spotlight on the Toronto Blue Jays. And today's spotlight is going to be Kevin Gausman. So we have a rough outline of what we want to do in these episodes, but usually it kind of goes out the door with us, so we end up talking about some specific stuff. So our plan is to talk about 2024 Kevin Gausman in the first segment, and then go into like his future, just where we expect Kevin Gausman to be in the next coming season with the Toronto Blue Jays, and then a series preview. That's the goal. Is that going to happen? Not sure, probably not, knowing us, but we'll still start it with the game Kevin Gausman did have in the third game of that St. Louis Cardinals series, as we kind of push that to today's episode. So with Kevin Gausman, we'll just get right into the stuff. Just friendly eye test for me watching Kevin Gausman in this game. The first inning, it was tough to watch, and it wasn't because Kevin Gausman wasn't pitching good. It's because of the hits the St. Louis Cardinals were getting. Just going over that first inning, it was the George Springer bloop single fest is what it looked like, because every single time that the Cardinals were swinging the bat, they were just hitting it off the end of the bat. It wasn't necessarily good contact, and everything seemed to fall off of Kevin Gausman. So you look at that first game, just literally a million bloop singles. His first hit was a strike on the bottom outside corner. Perfect pitch, just a nice swing, gets into right field. Then you get a bloop single from Burleson, another bloop single, I believe, from Paul Goldschmidt, bloop single from Arenado, just the bloop Jays, except it was the bloop Cardinals in this game. So just from that, that was the only real blemish on Kevin Gausman's mark. Not really chalking that up to him at all. These pitches were not even in the zone a lot of the time. He was throwing balls that were just good swings. That happens in the MLB. These guys get paid millions for a reason. They're going to put good swings on baseball. Sometimes it is out of your control. And you look at the rest of the game, Kevin Gausman looked really good. Just was finding his stuff. His velo was up, which is a huge thing for Kevin Gausman. You'd think that you've made 28, 29 starts. You think your velo might go a little bit down as you get through the season. Not with Kevin Gausman. Kevin Gausman normally sits at 94 to 95. He was throwing fastballs. I saw one at 98.5 for Gausman. This late in the season, you absolutely love to see that. Velocity hasn't necessarily been a problem for Kevin Gausman, but what he did in this outing was definitely fun to watch. Braden, you got anything else to add? And just what do you want to see from Kevin Gausman? What'd you like that you saw from Kevin Gausman? And just what a dog is this guy, eh?
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about this guy all the time, and we have been, right? And sometimes I feel like with us and on the podcast, Kevin Gausman sort of falls by the wayside a little bit because we know what he's going to give us. We know Kevin Gausman. We love Kevin Gausman. Yes, maybe not maybe the stats don't pop off the page this season, and we'll get into that. But sort of to my take here is that we necessarily don't talk about him as much as probably we should be, because other guys have ups and downs and some young guys on the rise. How will this guy do? How will this guy do? But Kevin Gausman's the staple in this Toronto Blue Jays rotation. He's the ace. So some days it feels like, why talk about him when he goes out and does the thing that we expect him to do? But he doesn't necessarily get the props from everybody in doing what he's paid the big bucks to do. So yeah, he just gives you exactly what you expect 90% of the time. Yes, he's going to have months where he's not his amazing self, and I'll get into that. But overall, Carter, I mean, yeah, he's just an absolute dog.
You're right. He is an absolute dog, and the Toronto Blue Jays need this guy to be a good starting pitcher if they want to be competitive in 2025. One thing that was nice to see about Kevin Gausman in this start is that he threw his hardest pitch of the season at his 5th hardest pitch of the season, and that was both after throwing 90 pitches in the game. So again, it just kind of goes to what you would think. Kevin Gausman somehow getting better as he's getting farther into games. Maybe just if they would have waited until he got to 1,000 pitches, maybe he would have threw the ball 110 miles per hour. That's a nice one, John Schneider. You're missing out on a little bit of fun that us Toronto Blue Jays fans are trying to have. But you look at Kevin Gausman this season in totality. You look at just the numbers, the stats that he has produced for the Toronto Blue Jays this season. He'll be the first one to tell you that it probably wasn't good enough. Again, there's a lot of things that go into this. It's there's a lot of external factors. The stats don't necessarily tell you everything, but they'll give you a pretty good base point of what went wrong in a season for Kevin Gausman. So to start out, the first thing I'm going to point out that went wrong for Kevin Gausman is to get injured. Injuries that's early on in the season in spring training are going to hurt you immensely. You don't have that ramp up time in spring training where you can kind of figure yourself out, work through some things. You're pitching. You don't want to change year to year specifically, but you take a few months off and you kind of have to get back into the swing of things. Maybe some things change. Baseball is such a finicky sport where you switch up your grip even slightly, your arm angle changes a little bit, your pitches will not do the things that you want them to do. So that's my first thing with Kevin Gausman. It's tough to perform at a high level when you're not playing baseball. You look at even examples with guys like Ernie Clement, the prospects in the Toronto Blue Jays that we talk about all the time. If you're not playing every single day, it's tough to get in a groove in the major leagues because there's a lot of talent in this league. And that's the first thing that I'm going to attribute to Kevin Gausman not having the season that he wanted to this season.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We look at so many guys on this Toronto Blue Jays team where the spring training or pre-spring training injuries have come back to bite them and led to the season they probably didn't think they were going to have, i.e. Jordan Romano, Bo Bichette.
Swanson was another one. You look at Alejandro Kirk when he had his kid last season. There's so many things that it's tough to be good when you're not playing. Simple as that.
Yeah, and that's exactly the issue, right? When you don't get that ramp up time, it's going to affect your stats. And we saw a little bit of that with Kevin Gausman, just sort of being not the consistent Kevin Gausman we always see. And that's because you miss out on some time, and that's what's going to happen. So hopefully next season, which we'll get into, we can talk about, is that he can stay healthy through the offseason and through spring training. I think that's got to be the goal, and he can get into the season and really kick things off right for him. But Carter, I mean, there's a lot to get into here with this season of Kevin Gausman. I think the biggest thing for me is what I just talked about, is the consistency. We're used to seeing Kevin Gausman come out and be able to put very consistent numbers most of the time. Yes, he's going to have those days where he's absolutely unbelievable and it's going to skew stuff. But Carter, I look at the stats sort of month to month, right? And even if we go by ERA, which we can go over everything, but again, I don't want to go into every single statistic. I just want to give you guys sort of an idea of what I'm talking about with the inconsistency here. In March, Kevin Gausman posted a 2.08 ERA. Then in April, a 4.94, which is something that I think that's not what we expect from Kevin Gausman. In May, he brought it down a little bit to a 3.76. In June, he had his worst month by far with a 5.65 ERA. And ever since then, it started to come down. And yes, in September, it's gotten a little bit higher. But in July and August, he looked pretty solid. And he's been lately consistently being around those same numbers. So when we're talking about Kevin Gausman, he is the epitome of consistency. This season obviously didn't go his way, and I think that all attributes to the injury leading in and not being able to get fully ramped up, and that just hinders you in different parts throughout the season. It'll come back. You didn't have that time to really perfect anything, and it's hard to perfect something when you're in a game that you're trying to win. You can't focus on those little things. In spring training, you can focus on, okay, I want to focus on the splitter today. Okay, I want to work on the fastball today. You don't get that when you're playing in a game. It's completely different. So I really do think that was Kevin Gausman's problem this season.
With Kevin Gausman, you talk about consistency, and consistency, that word can be interpreted in a ton of different ways. When I look at Kevin Gausman, it's not the consistency that, like, you can see he was consistently putting out stat lines that were probably going to give you at least a chance to win games. Not exactly what you want from Kevin Gausman, but I don't think the consistency problem was necessarily in the stat lines, because he was consistent with the stat lines. Where I would say Kevin Gausman's inconsistent, and this is where I'd kind of go away from you a little bit, is just the stuff that he had. You just watching the eye test. That's why the eye test does play such big factors in a lot of the stuff. You look at Jose Barrios, obviously back in the playoffs when he got pulled way too early. His stuff was on. You could see on the TV that he had some of his best stuff that he had all year. You look at Kevin Gausman this year. There's some games he has looked unbelievable. The splitter has been dropping a ton. The fastball velo, like I just said, 98.5 miles per hour. Some games you saw this season, Kevin Gausman would come out with a 93, 92 mile per hour fastball. That's the fluctuation that I was not liking to see a lot of the time this season. He would go, the miles per hour is fluctuating a ton. You look at the break, you look at the control, you look at a bunch of things with the stuff of Kevin Gausman, just how he is mechanically pitching on the mound. That's where I found Kevin Gausman lacked a lot of consistency this season. So again, you're going to go and you'll go into a season, you're not going to have your best stuff every single day. That's just how it is. And when I say consistency, I'm not looking for Kevin Gausman to go out there. Well, I should say, preface it like saying this. Best case scenario, in a perfect world, Kevin Gausman goes out there and he pitches, obviously, a perfect game every single time he goes out there. Realistically, you want him to throw about 6 innings. In a perfect world, he goes out there, throws 6 innings every single time. For me, I want him to throw like 5 to 7 innings. He's going to have probably one really, really good start, maybe more, and he's probably going to have one blow up in that. So overall, for me, consistency, I just want like 8 out of 10 quality starts, good starts, give your team a chance to win. Some things are going to go wrong. Some things are going to go very right. So with Kevin Gausman, when I talk about consistency, that's what I am looking for. But part of this reason with the consistency that I saw Kevin Gausman having a problem, I said the stuff, and a lot of his stuff was the splitter is where a lot of his havoc did start from. So we're looking at this splitter, and we look at it from the stats with Kevin Gausman going from this season. On the splitter, his strikeout rate on that pitch was 9.7% down from last season. And that is, he had the second lowest strikeout rate on his splitter of his career. It's not necessarily going to play. You look at his whiff percentage, 43.2 last year, 33.8 this season, which is a difference of what, Braden? 9.4. Exactly. You got that one right. Good job, math guy on this podcast. So you got, and then you're looking at his K percentile as well. He was in the 93rd percentile in strikeouts last season on the splitter. And this season, you go down. It's 38%. So he's not exactly what you want for the strikeout. And I said splitter. I misspoke there. Just percentile strikeouts in total. Kevin Gausman is not striking out nearly as many people as he was last season. And it's the splitter. The splitter is his strikeout pitch. It works so well off of that fastball. And it's because of that vertical drop that I was talking about earlier in this podcast. You look at the average splitter from Kevin Gausman, it's dropping 1.3 inches less on average than his splitter last season. 1.3 inches. I know Braden knows this. That's a lot. It could matter a lot, especially in the game of baseball and other aspects of your life. But 1.3 inches is the difference between you barreling up a baseball, hitting it perfectly in the center of its mass, and you almost missing that baseball, topping it, getting under it, popping out. So 1.3 inches, especially in the game of baseball, like I said, Braden knows about this. That matters a whole lot. You don't get that on a pitch, especially a splitter. That's the difference from a home run to a pop-up. So with Kevin Gausman, you want your pitches to break as much as possible with having the most amount of control. You didn't see the control skew too much this season, but you did see the numbers kind of go up. You look at every single number that Kevin Gausman has pretty much. You look at his expected slugging. You look at his barrel percentage. You look at his expected on base. You look at his expected average. Everything has gone slightly up. And a lot of that has stemmed from the splitter. And your one pitch can affect the rest of your pitches in your arsenal, especially when your main two pitches are your splitter fastball. If the splitter isn't splitting as much, isn't dropping as much, your fastball isn't going to be as good. So in totality, the Kevin Gausman thing is his stuff wasn't consistent. And part of that was the splitter. He needs to have a better splitter in 2025 if he wants to be in that top 5 voting of Cy Young again.
Yeah, Carter. I mean, you see that in all of baseball, right? There's a lot of guys you can go back and look at when they don't have their strikeout pitch working to 100% effectiveness. It obviously is going to render everything else they do. Every other pitch gets wrecked when their strikeout pitch isn't working. When their main pitch that gets guys missing doesn't work, everything else suffers. Every other pitch that they throw, the way they think about situations, the way the catcher has to think about situations, everything relies on the strikeout pitch, especially for a guy like Kevin Gausman. So you're 100% right in that aspect, is when those numbers drop. And we talk about not always wanting to look at the statistics and the numbers and using the eye test, but I think even with, you can tell guys are missing less because that strikeout pitch isn't there. And that's so key for a starting pitcher to have. Yes, in the bullpen, it's a little bit different. Sometimes you can come in and you can get guys throwing 101, and guys can use that. But starting pitchers have to use multiple pitches in their arsenal because they have to see the same guys 2, 3, 4 times a game. They need that pitch to work. And for Kevin Gausman, it just hasn't. So I think we'll get into the 2025 piece here right away because I think that's where we got to go. And look ahead because this splitter has to be on for Kevin Gausman to be successful. So we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to come back. We're going to look at what Kevin Gausman can do pushing into 2025 to be more successful.
Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. They are the easiest and most exciting way to play fantasy sports because it's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you can pick more than on or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. So as you guys know, obviously I'm a big MLB guy as we have this podcast, but I'm also a big NFL guy as well. So I'm a big fantasy guy as well. As you guys know, NFL fantasy, NHL fantasy, MLB fantasy. So I kind of split my picks up, as you know, on Monday's episode in NFL. I'm going to stick to MLB for the last 12 games of this season. You will see my odd NFL pick, but it's going to be overwhelmingly MLB to finish the season. So I got Vladimir Guerrero Jr., pretty much everything. You know, you hammer the more thans on Vladimir Guerrero Jr. That's the poison that I will be drinking for the rest of the season. I also got Spencer Horwitz more than 1.5 bases. So you guys already know this as well. If you guys know which players are going to perform on specific nights, you might as well jump on board, make some money while you're at it. You can download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit matchup to $100. It's code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit matchup to $100. Prize Picks. Run your game.
So, Carter, we talked about what the problem was and maybe why we haven't seen the best of Kevin Gausman. Well, looking ahead into this offseason and into 2025, into spring training, into the season starting, I know this is preemptive, but what's the fix for Kevin Gausman? What can he do to make himself, back in those elite conversations, into those Cy Young conversations that we know Kevin Gausman can be in? Carter, when I look at Kevin Gausman, right? We talked about the consistency. We talked about the splitter. For me, the biggest thing is getting in a good spring training. He's got to be able to stay healthy. He's got to be able to figure that out. But the next part is figuring out how to keep that splitter consistent. And I don't know if that comes with, again, it's pitcher to pitcher. Some guys can go in every single day. It doesn't matter what kind of warm-up, what kind of routine they do. They can go in and they can throw the same way. For other guys, they need that spring training. They need to get back and focus on the pitching and pitch by pitch, go through each game. Okay, today I'm going to work on just the splitter. Today I'm going to work just on the fastball. Some guys need that. And I feel like right now, Kevin Gausman needs to focus on that strikeout pitch that I talked about in the last segment. It is key to his success throughout the entire season. If he can establish in hitters' heads that the splitter is an effective strikeout pitch, that's going to have hitters watching it. Now, again, we're not saying that we're experts, but we're looking at the stats. We're looking at all this stuff. We know how this stuff works. And when that pitch is on, like Carter, you talked about in the percentiles and in the strikeout percentage, in the whiff rate, everything like that, it obviously matters. And that pitch obviously hasn't been as good as in the past previous years.
Well, yeah. When you look at Kevin Gausman and you look at the problem with Kevin Gausman, the only way I'm looking at it is from this. What makes Kevin Gausman Kevin Gausman? It's the splitter. The splitter is Kevin Gausman's identity. It's the best pitch. It's what makes Kevin Gausman such a good strikeout pitcher. So if you're going to focus on any single pitch, you're throwing this pitch the second most. It plays off of your primary pitch. The splitter is your strikeout pitch. That is for sure what you want to work on. Again, it's a lot easier saying that from here in our chairs than it is for Kevin Gausman going out there and actually throwing this pitch hundreds, thousands of times. And again, baseball is so tedious. Kevin Gausman could have, again, not with the splitter necessarily, but you look at pitchers in the MLB that are out for extended periods of time because they break a nail. It's little things like this matter so much. Again, not necessarily for a splitter, because obviously with the grip, you're not necessarily using your nails with that. That'd be kind of a crazy splitter grip. Who I would love to see somebody throw it with that. But looking at Kevin Gausman, yeah, it's the two things that obviously probably the cop-out answers, but the two things you need. You got to stay healthy, obviously. You don't want to get injured. And you've got to have your best pitch be your best pitch. How does Kevin Gausman improve on that splitter? Again, there's so many little things that could go into it. It could be a slight grip change. It could be maybe, I don't know, 10. Like, it could be a million things. The game of baseball is so tedious. There's so many things that can go wrong so quickly. I guess with Kevin Gausman, you just got to talk to the guys that he has in his corner. You look at the skills trainers. You look at the guys that he's been working with for a long time and just go back to his roots. Maybe you get that full spring training. You get that full off season. You kind of get in the right mindset. And again, the mental part of baseball is a huge thing too. Kevin Gausman knows that he hasn't necessarily been throwing a splitter the greatest that he ever has. And he obviously knows his splitter isn't doing the things that it once did in 2023. So Kevin Gausman is aware of this. We're not the smartest people of all time alluding this to Kevin Gausman. But Kevin Gausman, if you want to sign the Locked On Blue Jays boys to help you out with your pitches, we'll be more than happy to do that. But I'm sure he does know that his splitter has not been as effective this season. So yes, you want him to stay healthy. You want a splitter to be good. And that's going to help the rest of his pitches. You don't necessarily have to make your fastball better if you have other pitches that can help your fastball play off your other pitches better. So with Kevin Gausman, what I want to see from him next season, he can honestly be ERA for me isn't as big of a deal, I guess you could say. Again, I always say that the runs that you give up is the stat I'm looking at the most, and maybe a little bit hypocritical. But ERA, a lot of things can go into that as well. You look at how the statisticians score things. Sometimes they get lucky, sometimes they don't. A bunch of different things that go into that. I just want Kevin Gausman to look disgusting on the mound. All I'm looking for is just to please my eyes. I want to see his splitter break 100 feet. I want it to almost be a curveball. Obviously, I want Kevin Gausman to do good as well, but I want him to just be that dog again on the mound. He kind of lost that little bit of an aura, I guess you could say, that he did have going out there. Just the kind of the thoughts that I got in my head. Kevin Gausman looked like a killer on the mound. You lost that a little bit this season. Might be a little bit due to the confidence. If you can get that confidence back in his splitter and just stay healthy, which obviously is a thing that you want all players to do in the MLB, I think he can bounce back and hopefully get back into that Cy Young conversation that we were once in 2023.
Yeah, and again, we want to put this out here saying that we don't think Kevin Gausman's been bad. It's not saying that. It's just saying that, okay, what does he have to do to get back to where he was? And obviously, we're going to be the two guys more so than anybody rooting for him. Like we always say with Davis Schneider and other guys, when some guys are struggling, we want them to be good. We want to be able to talk about these guys. And Kevin Gausman, we want to be able to talk to about more. And hopefully, that comes here in 2025. It's going to be a very long offseason to see what happens here, Carter. Carter, just on the Kevin Gausman stuff, do you have anything sort of else you wanted to sort of go by before I sort of let in the news of who the Blue Jays have reacquired?
We want this guy to be the best player of all time. Before we went into this season, I had Kevin Gausman as being top 3 in Cy Young voting. That worked out, obviously not for me, but we want these guys to be the best players of all time. Imagine how fun a conversation would be if Kevin Gausman was in the Cy Young voting with Tyrese Skubal for this offseason and the end of the season. We'd have something to talk about. We'd have something to be excited for. We have nothing of that right now. We want David Schneider to go out there and hit a million home runs. We want Vladdy to be the greatest player to ever touch the infield of all time. We want every player on the Toronto Blue Jays to be the best player in the league. Does that happen? Obviously not. Baseball is a very tough game, but Kevin Gausman has done so good for so long, a 10-year career. And just like going over his numbers this season quickly as well. We'll end off with this Kevin Gausman saga here. But a 4.02 ERA, 170 innings pitched, 153 strikeouts, 1.25 whip. Those are not bad at all. If we could get every starting pitcher on our team, honestly, to have a 4 ERA with 170 innings pitched and a 1.25 whip, I'm probably taking that. You get that every single day, you're probably going to have a chance to win the majority of the time. So Kevin Gausman just returned back to the 2023, 2022, 2021, pretty much the last 5 seasons other than this one. I've seen it with a ton of other players on the Toronto Blue Jays. Kevin Gausman would be a prime bounce back candidate in my eyes for next season.
Yeah, me too, Carter. And we'll have our big sort of off-season who's our bounce back candidates, who's who could we see a little bit of a drop off for next year. We're gonna have all of that coming in our off-season coverage. And there's going to be so many more episodes of Locked On Blue Jays to go over all of this stuff. But Carter, it's time now. Who have the Blue Jays reacquired? This is per Keegan Matheson. He
Joey
says
Bats is back on the team. I'll break it first. We got Joey Bats. We need some power. Last 12 games. Didn't get Joey Votto. We got Joey Bats. One of the Joeys came back.
Yeah, how much did you like that? No, he's back. The Blue Jays have claimed catcher Tyler Heineman and DFA Brian Serven. Carter, I just wanted to go over sort of Tyler Heineman's stats when he did play with the Toronto Blue Jays. 19 games played, 37 plate appearances, 29 at-bats. He had a batting average of .276, an on-base percentage of .432, a slugging of .379, and an OPS of .812. Not terrible numbers from the catcher. Carter, what do you think he can bring to this team? Do you think he can maybe keep those numbers up or not so much?
If Tyler Heineman comes in and can get on base at like a 430 clip, I think is what you said, that's something I'm going to take every single day of the week. We're going to get used to Tyler Heineman for the next 12 games of the season. I think it's like literally just him. Did they call anyone else up with Alejandro Kirk going on IR, or is it's just the Heineman show, which I might be okay with at this point. Brian Serven, I went over it at the plate. Him at the plate is what I was going to say, but I went over it on this podcast. He's just not that good at the plate, unfortunately. He's a backup catcher. That's what Tyler Heineman's coming in to do. Just finish out the season. That's the role of Tyler Heineman. I don't really have too many expectations. I'm not going to be looking at Tyler Heineman any closer than I would look at a guy like David Schneider, like a guy like Aston Parcher, like these prospects. Just come in, do a job. A guy that third time's a charm, they say, coming back to the Toronto Blue Jays. I just want to be successful. Obviously, I have nothing against Tyler Heineman. I've heard nothing but positive things, but not necessarily moving the needle for me this late in the season. But pleasure to have back. Feel sorry for him. That is best option with the Toronto Blue Jays at this point of the season. But hey, the MLB is the MLB. You want to get your service time in. I can't hate on a Toronto Blue Jay legend like that.
Toronto Blue Jay legend, Jesus. We have so much more to cover here in the next couple days on a bunch of stuff, and going into the offseason, it's going to be just crazy. The amount of news and everything that's going to come out around the offseason with this team is going to be absolutely electric. So I can't wait to talk about that. But we have a series to preview, Carter. So I think, you know what, let's stop sort of beating around the bush here and let's get right into it. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. As you guys all know, we're big FanDuel guys here at Locked On Blue Jays, and you've heard us talk about it a ton. America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. We've been big on the fantasy football. We've been watching every game. I think Carter, I don't know if he left the couch this weekend watching all the football. So hopefully you guys are doing the same thing and you can take advantage of this great deal through FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So, Carter, we got a little bit of a series to preview here with the Toronto Blue Jays. I know, we were sort of making the joke that they would have to win pretty much all 12 games here to have a good shot at the playoffs. And I just want to put this joke out here, okay? This is exactly what I expect to happen from the Toronto Blue Jays. They go on a massive winning streak. They make us think that there's a chance, oh my goodness, these young guys are about to take the Blue Jays to the playoffs. and then they'll come up one game short just to bamboozle everybody and take us out of contention for that first overall pick as well. That would just be par for the course with this team this year, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I hope that doesn't happen. I really don't. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they'll kind of just ride out 500 to end the year. But it's either go big or go home in Toronto Blue Jays line. It's either you make the playoffs, you win 12 straight. I guess it would be 15 straight, or you lose every single game to end the season. Again, never going to bet against my own team, but you look at the kind of schedule we got going on here. You got the Texas Rangers, as we'll get into, the Rays, the Red Sox, and the Marlins. Not the hardest schedule I've ever seen. No playoff teams in there, Toronto Blue Jays included. So I guess you can't say too much about that. But I don't got too much else to say about the Toronto Blue Jays for the rest of the season. So if you had to, let's put a record on it though, just for between me and you. I literally got 6-6. I think they're gonna go completely 500. I think there's 72 and 78 right now. They get them up to 78 wins. I think I had them in our mid-season review as getting 69. I was just so over the team, and they went on a little winning streak here with these young guns. So throw a number on it though. At 12 games, how many games are they winning?
I'm going 8-4, Carter. I'm going high. I'm saying they're losing one game a series. I think they're going to get a sweep somewhere in there, and they're going to drop two to a team as well. So
2 to the Marlins at the end of the year, probably.
Yeah, most likely. Yeah, that would just be par for the course. But I'll let you guys in on some sort of who's pitching here in the next few days. Chris Bassett versus Nathan Eovaldi in Game 1. Then it's Bowden Francis versus Cody Bradford. And then Game 3 on Thursdays, Kevin Gausman versus Kumar Rocker. Don't know who that is, to be honest with you, but we'll have to wait and see sort of what he can bring to the table here. Carter, I don't know, my man. You know what? They're late games for us, besides the Thursday, which is an afternoon game. Just a very weird timing for some of these games. Sort of, I don't know. Maybe it's just a little bit different, and it's sort of throwing me off a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an hour later for us, 7:05. That's the typical Toronto start. Leave a comment on how you guys actually like that 7:05 start. We'll let you guys know if we like the 6 or the 7 better. Before we do get into that, like what actually happens, I feel like the 6 is probably better. I think if I had to lean one way, I think that's the way I would go. At least it's not at 9 o'clock like the Canucks games come into us for the NHL. 162 games a year at 9 o'clock, and then doing a podcast after. That might be my hell. I'm not gonna lie. That it would be a tough showing for the Locked On Blue Jays boys. We'd probably still get it done anyway. Looking at this series, we got our boy, the Bowden Francis. This is our unicorn of the Toronto Blue Jays. It's the guy that we are following. Like, this guy could take us like a left foot and right foot, and Braden could probably, just by listening to it, figure out which one that he put down at that specific period of time. That's how close we are on Bowden Francis. It's a guy that I've liked for a very long time. So second game of the series, going to be a game that I'm going to be watching with my binoculars on the couch and be cheering for my boy Bowden Francis. But other than that, the usual stuff. Let's see Kevin Gausman. Actually, we talked about Kevin Gausman a lot this season, and a lot obviously in this episode. Let's see Kevin Gausman go out there and shove. Maybe let's typical Kevin Gausman start. I want 10 punchies over maybe 7 against the Texas Rangers. They got not the greatest team out there. Obviously, last season winning the World Series. What a fall off from that team. That's definitely disappointing. I'd probably say more disappointing than Toronto Blue Jays season based off where we were versus where they were last season. But yeah, just I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy the last 12 games of the season. They're going to fly by. It's 2 weeks of baseball, believe it or not. It sucks. It sucks to say right now. Again, some games are hard to watch, and in the moment, you're like, oh, why do I watch this baseball team? But I know literally the week after the season, I'm gonna be like, damn, no baseball anymore. What am I going to do on a random Wednesday night? Like, now I got my Mondays, got my Thursdays, got my Sundays. What about the other days? Toronto Blue Jays, they gotta start like a summer league, maybe. We gotta get like a UFL or something, or just something random for a baseball season that can go on in the summer.
Yeah, dude, I'm pretty sad that this season's sort of coming to an end. Sort of happy, but sort of sad. I want to see better Blue Jays baseball and more meaningful games. But you're right. Whenever when baseball comes to an end, I know hockey will be there and football will be there, but there's just something about baseball, the summertime feel, everything like that. It's gonna be tough to miss. But Carter, in saying that, we got a big sort of baseball league going on right now that I just sort of smoked in. We're just ripping hard MLB The Show leagues with a bunch of our buddies. You know, we're all really upset that the Blue Jays aren't competing and sort of doing what we need them to do. So we're like, all right, screw it. We're all going to just start our own league, I guess. So we're going to probably go and rip some of that tonight and continue. Shout out Tyler McKay's back for a week. We haven't seen him in a while, so we're gonna have some fun. It's gonna be a fun week. We're gonna have a blast. Watch some baseball tomorrow with the boys, and hopefully you guys are doing the same. Carter, anything else before we sort of take out of here?
Fantasy football sucks. I'm already sick of it. My entire team's just getting injured. Like that's a tough thing about football. It's just the injuries. So if you're gonna be thankful for anything, be thankful that there wasn't like a major Toronto Blue Jays injury this season. I guess you could probably say Romano. You could say Bo Bichette. Maybe that isn't the most truthful thing I've ever said on this podcast. But the baseball season, I don't know. You get these injuries. You got 162 games. You kind of forget about some of these stints. You get Isaiah Pacheco out for 6 weeks. You're gonna remember that. You get first 1-1 Christian McCaffrey out probably until week 10. That's definitely something you're going to remember. So unfortunate injuries obviously happening in every sport, but with the Toronto Blue Jays, I'm not going to bet against my team. I said 6-6. I would love to see 12-0. Let's get some playoff aspirations. Let's get some of the juices flowing in Toronto Blue Jays baseball again. It's going to happen. Definitely not. But hey, we're delusional enough on this podcast. With the Toronto Blue Jays in 2024, we're going to be a good baseball team. So that's kind of where we're at. Thank you guys for watching. We have noticed that about 68% of you guys are not subscribed. So you are coming back, watching every single episode anyway. It does help us out a ton and also keeps our videos at the top of your page. But yeah, we got the Texas Rangers coming in. Big series. Hopefully we can get another series win, carry on this momentum, and just enjoy baseball while it's on right now. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.